Hello, this is the second video in a series about how to build a Flask app using a CSV full of data. And in case you wanted to get caught up from the first video, you can find the link in the text below the YouTube video. And you can also find a link to this gist. So this is the code that we had when we ended the first video. And it's not using templates yet. It's still pretty rudimentary or basic, but we're going to start here in this video. So our Flask app at present is able to give us all the data from our CSV file for one president at a time, depending which president we picked. And let's see, I'll just type these in. We've got 3 presidents so far, and this is where we end, right? So this structure that you're looking at here that starts with curly braces and starts with one opening curly brace and ends with one closing curly brace, this is a Python dictionary, and it is made up of keys, which in this case are strings, that came from our spreadsheet. So you'll notice in the spreadsheet that the column heading for the president's name is president, and the column heading for the president's party is party with a capital and uppercase P. All right, so case will matter. Home state, uppercase H, hyphen in the middle, but each president's home state is listed under that column heading. So in this video, these column headings are going to be of the utmost importance. So keep in mind that they come from the CSV file that we started with. The CSV file is now in a Python dictionary, and a Python dictionary looks like this. So the dictionary for every president is going to have age when took office and party and the president's name under president, and a Wikipedia entry, link, and so forth. The data will be the same for every president. And I'll just show you Thomas Jefferson to compare, right? So the same things are here for every president, but what's different is the value. So the keys are the same for each president. The values are unique to that president. So let's get back to our code. So here's the code that we ended with at the end of the previous video. And also we still have our starter file named hello3 in this folder. And I want to keep this folder clean and tidy the way the final app folder is going to be. So I'm going to delete that now because we are finished with it and it's not part of this app. So I will delete it, and yes, all right. So hello3 is of no importance here. We've got our CSV that has all the presidents. We have to keep that in the same relationship to our app. And we have a basic app file. There's nothing else in our project when we begin this video. So you're probably eager to see how the Flask templates work. But before we get to that, I want to be clear about how are we going to extract the individual values from one president's dictionary and put them into the template. So before getting the template, let's see how that's going to work. So right now we can get one of these 3 presidents, right? We've got presidents that we can call just for testing, right? So we are getting their name and number, and then we're going to open a new Flask route that uses the number that was in the link for the president, right? And we pass in the number to the route function. And right now the route function looks like this. And the route function right now has a line left over from hello3 that we've deleted, and I kept it because we're now going to edit that line to do something that we want. And what I want this line to do is to display some of the details about the selected president. So I think I'm going to pick what state is the president from, what was his previous occupation, and what date did he take office. So I'm going to make a sentence that has those variables in it. Okay, so what I'm going to put in instead is this. So I want the sentence to read that the U.S. President so-and-so came from such and such a state and was this job before he took office on this date, right? So I want the details from my dictionary to fill those in for me. So how can I do that? Well, first, I need to get this dictionary that I was returning, and let's get that out of there. And I need to get that dictionary before I write the sentence so that I can use the keys and values out of that dictionary. And let's actually put that dictionary into pres and call the string text to be more clear. So now what we do when we feed in a number to the route, we're going to run the function and we get the number, and the number will be used just as before to get one single dictionary for that particular president, just like we have seen before. So we're still getting this dictionary, but now we are getting it before we construct our string. Our string is going to be stored in the variable text, so we are going to return text. But let me tell you, we can't run this just yet because this won't do anything. All right. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we had a way to get the president's name and state and occupation and date from this dictionary for that one president now stored in pres? Well, yes, we can, because there are keys and values. The keys come from the column headings in the CSV. So the president's name comes from here. The key name is president. The president's home state comes from here. The key name is home state. The president's occupation from here. And the date when the president took office comes from here. So these are the key names that already exist in the dictionary. You can see them here. We have took office. We have president. We have occupation. And we have home state. So now what we need to do is simply use those to call those values. And let me just grab them right out of here. There are other ways we can do that. I'll paste them in here so I don't have to worry about spelling errors. So I want occupation, I want president, and I want took office. And I only want the keys because the values will come from the keys. So I'm deleting values. I'm just editing here the way I normally would. And what is our dictionary name? It is pres, the variable, right? So that is the name of the dictionary. That has to precede this. And then a key is always inside. There, I've got them. Okay. So I need to use those, and you might think, oh, she's going to put these inside these curly braces. Well, no, that actually won't work because that has to be, anyway, that won't work in this case. So what we're going to do is we're going to use string formatters in a slightly different way, and that is dot format, and then we'll put all the values that we want in these parentheses in order. So for the name, I have to get the president, there we go, the name, and these have to be separated by commas. The next thing I want is the state. So I will put that in my list of values. The next thing is the occupation, so comma, space, occupation. Oh, delete that. And the final one is took office. All right, so this is not anything. We're still not using templates. I swear we'll get to them. But right now we are constructing a string. Here's our string. And now that we have assured ourselves that the order is correct. Here's the name, here's the home state, the occupation, the took office. We actually have to make these empty. And there's more than one way to do it, but this is the easiest, shortest way. So now we've got a format set up to bring in values from the dictionary. And so I'm going to save this and I'm going to run it. And there we go. So the name was filled in. The home state was filled in. The occupation was filled in. And we see that that's a little awkward, and that's always a risk that you run. And we see that the date when he took office was filled in. So what if we go back to the top of our server, to the root? What if we get Washington? Same thing. His name was filled in, his state, his occupation, and the date when our first president took office. And one last president that we have in our test list is John Adams, president number 2, who did not come from Virginia. He was a lawyer, and this is when he took office. We don't use this format method for strings in the template, but we use something very similar. And it is important that if you are not used to using Python dictionaries, you need to understand that this structure here and here, etc., names the dictionary, and also in the brackets has to have the exact name of the key in quotes. It can be single quotes, it can be double quotes, but inside, case-sensitive punctuation matters. Otherwise, you do not get the value that you expect. And we bring in the number for which item in the list is it. That number then gives us an index for the list. And this is our list. We put that one single dictionary into a variable named pres, and then we use that to get out whichever values we desire. Our Flask function returns the value of text, meaning that is the HTTP response to the web page to the client. And that's how we get this. Okay, we are ready to make a template. All right, so for Flask, all templates, they are HTML, and they must be inside a folder named templates. So that folder is going to be inside our project folder. So we will make a new folder right now, and we will name it templates, lowercase t. All right, so now we have that. Now we will make a new file inside that. And remember that the file for a page for one president is not the index page. It's not the top page of the website, right? So we should think of a good name to name this HTML file. And we will make a new folder, new file. So let's name it president, because it's only one, .html. And now we have that new file open. And I've already got the code. I don't think you want to watch me typing it laboriously, but let's go over it just quickly. So it's a complete normal HTML file. It starts with a doc type and HTML, and then it's got a complete normal head and a complete normal body, and it ends with /HTML. No JavaScript, no nothing else, right? So we've got some normal looking paragraphs and links. Here we've got just a stand-in for link. So not everything is filled in. You'll see I have some brackets in the text. These are not doing anything right now. They're just showing us that's some information that I will want to fill in. I have an image here, but notice there are no images anywhere in our folder yet. So that image is not going to show up. I've got a class on the image that comes from a style sheet. look in our folder. That style sheet is not here yet. We're going to bring these things in one at a time so you see how this is constructed. I have put the president's name up here in the HTML title. I have put a president's name here in the H1, but nothing else here is specific to any president. But we're just going to see first, how do we render this file at all? How do we bring in a template? So I need to save the file. I've done that. And go back to our app script, right? So what I need to do here is not return the text. I need to return a function that's called render template. So I'm returning a function. By doing so, that function will run and construct an HTTP response that includes sending that HTML file to the browser, back to the client that requested president number whatever. So I need to say, well, which file is that? And because it's in templates, because that's the way a Flask app is set up, I just need to know the exact name of my file. Notice the file name has to be between quotes. Can be double quotes, can be single quotes, but you need the quotes because it's a string that tells render template which file am I getting out of templates, the folder we just made. So let's save that and run it and see what we get. So here we are. Let's press return. And oh, look at this. We got an error. And why? Because render template is not defined. We forgot to import it. It is a separate module from Flask, so we have to import it. So back to our script, up to where we import Flask from Flask, we can import render template right there. And that's what we normally do. Things we're importing from Flask, we can import on one line by separating them with commas. So save that. Let's try this again. Okay, so ugly because no CSS. But this is the template that you saw, right? There's no image because, as I pointed out, we have no images in our folder yet, right? We've just got exactly the text you saw, but this is step one. We made an HTML file. We put it into the templates folder, and now using the function render template, by returning that function and designating which template, we have caused that template to open up in the browser. So let's first apply the styles. And in order to apply the styles, that is to attach the style sheet, we need to make a separate folder. So this is the only other folder that Flask requires, and it also has to be at the top level of the project. So new folder, and it must be named static, all lowercase. So I've got that. Now, in there, I can make a folder named CSS. I can make a folder named images. Let's have a look at my template and see what I said. I said PR16, okay. No folder there, no images. And I said main CSS, no folder. So let me just drag those two files from somewhere else on my machine and put them into the static folder. So no other folders in static, although I could make other folders in there. Okay, so I have main.css. It is a complete CSS file with a media query and everything else. And I have an image of President Lincoln because that is the president that I put on my sort of dummy version or my rough version of the template. So with those two files in place, what if I reload? It's because these files that are in the folder static, now you might think, oh, just put a normal path to the static folder into the quotation marks here. That's not the way it needs to be done. So we're now going to see kind of a funny, weird structure for how to access files that are in the static folder. So the code I'm about to show now is explained in this resource in the chapter about Flask templates, and it's demonstrated, and you can copy and paste from here. So back to our actual app. So I need to replace main CSS with a construction that comes from the Jinja template language, but it directs this HTML file to get its main.css file from the templates folder that's part of the Flask app. So inside these quotation marks, which are normal, I have to put a pair, that is double curly braces. So curly braces inside curly braces. That is step 1 to use the Jinja template language. Step 2 for any path into the static folder is that I'm going to say URL for, this is actually a function, okay? This is a function like this. And inside that, I am going to paste the beginning of what I need. And now, the thing that I need after the equal sign is what is the folder, if there is one, inside static, and the exact file name that I'm trying to point to. So we know that this file is named main.css, correct? Quotation marks or not quotation marks? Keep in mind that your outside quotation marks are double. These inner quotation marks are single. So what do you think you need? Naturally, you need single quotation marks. So there, and if they were to double up and close that parentheses against it, and this is all right for this to be hanging down because this is all one single line, okay? Don't put any hard returns in there, it won't work. So this is a normal link element in a normal HTML file, but inside the normal href value, we put a Jinja directive, basically, that is saying use special Flask things to get into the static folder and get our style sheet. So we can copy just about the same thing, okay, the whole thing with the double curly braces, including the double curly braces. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to put that, in fact, let's put that down on a line. I'm going to put it right here. Okay, but this time our file name is not main.css, it's pr16.jpg. So I'm gonna X that here. I'm gonna put it into place, right? Because it's also in the static folder, and no extra lines. All right, where are we here? That is exactly where I want to be. Okay, so there's a class that comes from my CSS. It's going to make this image float to the right. And I start with a double quotation mark. I end with a double quotation mark. My pointy bracket is from the end of my IMG element. And it looks like I've got everything there. So let's save and reload and see if now we've got a better looking file. Ready to reload. There he is. Now, this is not a finished template, right? Because we're not feeding in this information that we know we can get from our dictionary, right? We know we can get this. But what you just saw was how to make the image appear and how to make the CSS style sheet be applied to this HTML template. Now, let's start filling in some of these placeholders with proper Jinja templating placeholders that will bring in our data from our CSV that's now a list of dictionaries. So the way we need to do that is first in our app where we said render template. Okay, so render template. The first thing in the parentheses has to be the name of the file that is our template. And then after that, we have to pass in variables that the template will need to use. Now, what's really cool about using a dictionary is you can just pass in the whole dictionary instead of each one of the things that's in the dictionary. So one thing instead of 15 things, much easier. So we know that our dictionary is named Pres, the current one, right? Whichever president was selected. So we put that in there. But we're not done, because Pres is what it's called here in this file. So what we want to do is we want to say, what's it going to be called in the template itself? And it's actually totally fine to say pres equals pres. But you have to put it in there because one side or the other, the variable for the template or the value coming out of this Flask app, one or the other could be a different variable name, right? But with that pres, we are passing one entire dictionary, so one president, the specific one, and we're passing him into here. And this stuff actually doesn't matter at all anymore, but we'll just leave it in there for the time being so that you remember this is how we're going to get the name of the president, right? So actually I'm going to copy that, go in here, and replace that with that, okay? But not done yet. This is, there's a templating thing here. So we need to put double curly braces, just like we did up here, for our path to our style sheet, and over here, the path for the image. So we need these double curly braces around the outside of the key from our dictionary that brings in the name of the president. And we can also take that president's name and replace here and even here up in the title, right? So whichever president we've chosen, that name is going to come in, okay? Now we have born on date, born in place. Place we already have. So let's grab that. Came from home state. That was the key to get a president's home state. So we'll go in here and select the whole thing and press the curly brace twice. And I do like to put a space before and after, just it helps me proofread better. Let's see. Occupation, we had that one. So I'm only going to put in the ones that we already had so that you can see that you need to be specific about which ones you're putting in, and things don't happen automatically. You have to actually put them in there. Okay, double curly. And if you want the period, the punctuation, to come right after whatever value the occupation is, you're going to need to make sure that punctuation comes right up against the curly braces. But inside the curly braces, because this is not a string, it's a value, you can have spaces inside around the key for the dictionary. And what was the other one? Actually, those are the only ones. No, we had the date that he first took office. Oh, there we go. So what did we have? Took office, right? Where is that? There it is. Took office. And let's just put that one in. Took office on. Okay. Took office and double curly, right? And a little space and a little space. And let's save and reload and oops, and save over here too. Didn't save that one. All right, so the only thing we've changed is we have added the name of our dictionary and assigned it to a variable that will be used by the template. And the way the template is using that variable is every time you see pres inside the curly braces. So we've saved both our files. So let's rerun our app. Okay, the picture's the same because remember we did not change the image, the file name of the image. But now we have John Adams. John Adams, right? We said when he took office. And remember, he's the guy who was from Massachusetts, whereas the other two are from Virginia. And his occupation before the presidency was he was a lawyer. And let's see if we change what we can go back to the top where we still have our list, right? So we can do Jefferson. Again, the picture is not changing because we haven't changed that yet, right? Virginia, he took office on this date, and his occupation, planter lawyer. And one last guy, right? Washington, okay? George Washington and Virginia, and he also was a planter. And when he took office, right? So if in our template file, in that president.html, if we put in the dictionary key for each of these other values and replace it the same way that we just replaced the name of the president, the date on which he took office, the place in which he was born, and his occupation, right? If we replace all these other little placeholders that are just text with the curly braces and the dictionary key, everything in this paragraph would be filled in as you've seen in the finished version, which is this. So we've got three more things to do, and we are going to do those in another video. So that video is going to take care of changing the image for every president to match the image that, well, to make it the right guy, right? We are going to figure out how to put a Wikipedia URL in here, and we're also going to see how to write a URL that goes within the same app. One other thing that we still need to do that we haven't done yet is we have not built this page at all, and we do not have a list. We do not have an automatically generated list of all the people in our dictionary, in our list of dictionaries. Those things have to be done in the next video.